G'day, hope you guys are all having a good one. Today's video, I'm going to be discussing World Creator, Gaea, and GeoGen. Just discussing roughly, my thoughts on the three of them, where I, hold, I guess, them, and, what I value out of, I guess, each package. This isn't going to be a cut and dry, this program is the best, this is the worst, and this is the middle. As everybody's needs and so forth are different, right? So some people may value some aspects as opposed to other aspects. So ultimately, this, I guess, from this video, hopefully you guys will have a better understanding of at least those three packages. Yes, there are other ones like GeoGen and so on and so forth. I don't have access to them, or at least paid anyway, versions of them, so I don't really feel like I have the understanding of them to their fullest extent, as well as ultimately I just haven't used them that much. So yeah, but these three, I've used them to a hobbyist level for all of them quite a while. Bar GeoGen, I got pre-alpha to that, but that has not been out for a whole year yet. But I have been using Gaea for quite a while, as well as World Creator, with World Creator being my first one I ever purchased. So yeah, to take from this is all hobbyist level. Don't take this as advice for a professional level, as one, I am not a professional. Two, situations do change. Some are better for your workflow, as well as different pricing. The pricing for a professional level for these software increases as well as changes, and I'm not too certain on some of them. So yeah, so this is all for hobbyists, for people like myself, who are just trying to explore, as well as use this for your own personal projects, and maybe some commercial small ones as well. So yeah, hopefully this is helpful, and hopefully you learn some new stuff. So something that I want to preface as well, before I get too much into this, is going to be mainly in particular GeoGen as well as Gaea. So GeoGen is currently in alpha. I was a pre-alpha tester when it was originally, a bit before it originally came out to the public. So I did get a bit of experience there, and hence I've been able to make some of my own personal tutorials for it here on YouTube. But just do note that this is by no means its 1.0 build, unlike World Creator and Gaea that have been out for quite a while, and I'll get into where Gaea is getting its second version, or like its 2.0 build coming out. So I think the first thing and foremost thing that I should mention is GeoGen, take everything with a sort of grain of salt, as I think it's a really great tool thus far, but it is lacking some features and so forth, and it's not, because of any bad job or anything. They're doing an amazing job there at Django Fix, as well as they're trying to do multiple projects at once. So yeah, but ultimately it's not its 1.0, so don't take this as its like final, production perfect, build. I believe it's still an alpha. So, there's a lot to expect in the future, but right now it's definitely usable, and hence I'm including this in my video. But no, Gaea 2, there is a second version coming out now. It's technically it's not purchasable separate, but if you do purchase Gaea 1 now, you do get access to Gaea 2 when it releases, so don't worry too much about the fact that it's coming out, because you'll get access to it if you do purchase Gaea now. Albeit I do believe later this month they are going to be doing a full swap over to full public Gaea 2 release, unless there's a delay. So I do believe once that happens, there's going to be a switch from Gaea 1 to Gaea 2. This video will mostly be covering Gaea 1, primarily as it's going to get dated pretty quickly then, but I'll mention a couple Gaea 2 things, but ultimately the tool's not completely there. I think if for professional work, you should only be using Gaea 1 at this current point in time. Gaea 2, it's looking good. It's pretty powerful, but there are like maybe not half the nodes, but a large portion, maybe a third of the nodes, don't actually work or haven't been transferred over from Gaea 1. as well as there's just a heap of crashes. I've made the tutorial recently going over some of those crashes and the causations of them. So, if you are interested in Gaea 2 and you want to check it out, feel free to check out that video, as I do cover some pretty important stuff there. But hey, right, I'm just trying to keep it real with you guys, and because, both GeoGen and Gaea 2 are open to change, and there's a new version coming of GeoGen soon, so things will change. What, I say now may not be the case in 3 months, for example. So yeah, thought that's pretty important to preface. So first thing I want to mention, tutorials, right? Ultimately, tutorials is an important aspect to learning a new tool. I'm going to keep it brief. World Creator, in my opinion, has the most tutorials. Gaea 2 has, in my opinion, the most valuable tutorials, where they go more in depth, albeit you can look at it like, I think World Creator has a bit more for learning, whereas Gaea, albeit you're learning, it more goes over all the nodes, and it gets more in depth. So it's more, I think Gaea 1 tutorials are more advanced, and you sort of need a bit of a brief understanding. I haven't seen too many like, hey, here's a get started Gaea tutorial. Could be the algorithm though, making me miss that. But World Creator has a lot of really great, easy starting ones. But I feel like some of them, I don't know, don't go as in depth as some of the Gaea ones do. So, take your pick. Do you sort of, if you haven't, if you've done a bit of terrains before, then Gaea is probably going to be, better in those regards for following tutorials. If this is like your first tool, then World Creator is probably going to be a great start in its own regard. GeoGen is, I make my own tutorials, as I mentioned earlier, but at the same time, I'm like the only one that's, in a sense, consistently putting out tutorials. I mean, I wouldn't say I'm consistent anyway, especially now, as I've been busy with schoolwork, but yeah, there's a couple other people that have popped out some great tutorials, like redefine effects and stuff. Yeah, hopefully we see a few more, and with future versions, we're going to see more and more, especially popularity, hopefully rising up, especially once it comes out in 1.0, really similar to how EmberGen got a big boost of popularity at that point as well. Next thing I might mention will be ease of use. I guess that kind of coincides with the whole tutorial aspect of things. I think ease of use is a bit of a tricky thing to talk about, right? What I find easy is not necessarily going to be what you as the viewer may experience. Maybe you are someone who has lots of experience with nodes, and you sort of can, wiggle your way through everything, or you may be on the other side of the story where you prefer sort of more listed based stuff. And that's kind of up to you, and sometimes some just may click a bit better for you, but to go over it, we've got GeoGen and Gaea both have a node based workflow. If you have used other tools from Django Effects such as EmberGen, LiquidGen, then GeoGen's going to be pretty easy to pick up, as the workflow is fairly similar, especially in how the nodes and so forth work. So especially the UI just in general. So if you've used other Django Effects stuff, GeoGen's going to be super easy to pick up. Otherwise, hit or miss. I think it could definitely be better, but once again, alpha, I would expect everything to be sort of cleaned up and a bit more straightforward, as time progresses. But I think Gaea can be quite a hard start, just solely because there's a lot of nodes, right? There's probably about 80 or so nodes, somewhere to 50 to 80. Maybe I'm overstating it. There's probably closer to 50. But ultimately, there's a lot of nodes. There's a lot of things that you can do. It's quite a bit tricky. You sort of have to have that understanding of what each thing's going to do. Now, it is pretty simple. You just plug, and play, right? But sometimes that can be a little bit tricky to understand, what's affecting what, how it's all going. You do have sort of like output viewing of from GeoGen, which works pretty well. So you can just click an output of that specific node, and you can sort of see how it's being applied to stuff. Great for masks, great for just seeing how things update. So GeoGen's pretty simple. I find personal opinion, it's a bit tricky to get started with. Don't take that as a bad thing, as sometimes that just means you got extra functionality in the later stages of things, but from ease, that's my opinion. World Creator, I'd say, is the easiest to start with. By far, it's list-based and pretty simple. Everything updates real time, and well, it is like fully real time. You know, GeoGen is sometimes real time. It's real time until you bump up the resolutions, really. And Gaea 1 is not so much real time. It's for the most part real time, but there's nodes that require full-on waiting and so forth. Gaea 2 heavily improves that, but I won't go too much into that until later. But yeah, so World Creator, you know, you just go, you get your base scene, and you can apply these filters. You can have, like, you know, erosion filters, and as you like hover over the options, you can see it, you know, real time, just applying onto the I guess the terrain itself. So it's really easy to, you know, just keep working, you know, just scroll down, boom, 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 boom. Which one am I liking? Just drag it, apply it, you're good. So I find it's really simple. I do think the UI is definitely getting a bit more convoluted in World Creator as time goes on. I guess you could also argue, you know, as you introduce more things, how do you keep the UI simple? They've changed the UI about 3 times in like the last 2 to 3 years, so I think as a longer time user, it can get a bit tricky to I guess stick with, as when you're constantly changing the UI, it's hard to retain, you know, oh wait, where was this function that I used in the last version? It seems to have moved, and you just have to keep relearning the software effectively. So pretty easy to pick up from, you know, as a standalone, but it does get a bit tricky later on. But yeah, I would say ultimately, I'd say in my opinion, you know, you got World Creator easiest. GeoGen is going to be probably the middle, with Gaea being the trickiest, but that's not to say any of them are particularly hard. That's just what I think from my own experience learning the software. I found trying to learn and which nodes do what, I found that to be my thoughts, really. Next thing I'm going to be covering is going to be pricing. So pricing is going to be possibly, especially as a hobbyist, your major factor into which software you want to pick up, right? Especially if this is your first software you're learning in regards to terrains. You know, maybe you just want to do terrains on the side, or it's just something that you want to have in the background just as like a little, you know, just to enhance your scenes, right? So I think, you know, this is pretty standard. I would say, you know, from the get-go, Gaea is going to be 100% your best for pricing-related things, where you've got a community version, completely free, perpetual, you own it forever. It is limited functionality, where you've got, you know, your build resolution is capped at 1K. You can technically go over, but it's going to have watermarks and stuff, so unless you're just wanting it for like visual testing, I probably wouldn't go over that. And 1K is fine if it's just like a background thing, so it's kind of fine. But you do lose a lot of functions and stuff. This is for Gaea 1. Gaea 2, we don't actually know even if there's going to be a community. It's assumed there will be, but looking at the comparisons that they have up on the website, they don't bring up what the community is going to have, albeit the indie is improved upon Gaea 1 for Gaea 2. So there is that, but I'll keep going through it. Indie is currently $99 for a perpetual. I believe the pro to all these are, for Gaea anyway, these are up until the next mainline version. So going like, for example, we're doing Gaea 1 to Gaea 2. This is perpetual for all of that time. So up until, I guess, Gaea 2 comes out, you'll have these updates, and then I guess there'll probably be no more updates in Gaea 1, but Gaea 2 will be the same, where it's like Gaea 2 for a couple of years until they make Gaea 3. So that's great. So you're not paying, in some cases you're going to be paying for maintenance, as both the next two software, GeoGen and World Creator are. This one is just a single payment for that single version, and that's really, really good, right? So, yeah, that's powerful, but yeah, so $99 for the indie version. You're getting 4K exports. You're missing out on some small stuff like tiled builds and adaptive meshes, which adaptive meshes are a really, really awesome feature of Gaea, but I won't go too much into that. But otherwise, yeah, that seems indie, and then professional being 200. These are all USD, by the way. And professional, you're gaining pretty much all functionality you're going to be needing, where you can do like 8K resolution. You can do tiled builds of, I'm not even going to math it, but 2 million times 2 or something, or to the power of 2, sorry. I'm just reading on the website, and either way, large numbers, you're pretty much only going to be restricted by your current PC at that point. So 200 version being professional, that's probably the best one to go if you want to be selling these and making the most of the software at hand. But I would probably say Indie's a great purchase. Definitely go for Indie, in my opinion, for Gaea 2, unless stuff like God mode and hybrid builds, which we don't know too much about what that is actually going to end up resulting in. But that is something, if that's what you're interested in, go for professional for that. But no, Indie's looking to be quite the good steal. Next up, we're going to be going into GeoGen and its pricing. So we've got 150 USD for GeoGen. There is also a test version for GeoGen as well, where you can trial it for, I believe, 14 days. Here's what I didn't know. So this is actually the second time I'm recording this video, but so it's 14 days. You still have access to it. You just can't export it. So in some instances, you could almost argue that it's more powerful than the Quad Spinner trial community version, where Quad Spinner, the older Gaea community version, you're lacking tiled build resolutions, albeit that's mostly for export, and adaptive meshes. You're losing a little bit of stuff, but most of the stuff that you're losing is, I guess, going to be export anyway. But no, GeoGen, you will not have access to exporting after that 14-day period is up, but you have access to literally every feature in it, right? Everything. You're not losing any features that you would have if you'd purchased it. So if you want the full product, GeoGen trial is an amazing thing to pick up. And the maintenance is not too bad. It's about half. So you're paying, effectively half, so 75 USD a year after that. So 75 is a pretty good deal in terms of maintenance. That's if you are after maintaining it anyway. But 150 is a pretty good deal. That is the middle between the indie and professional pricing of Gaea 1. So if you were looking at professional and you want like the full functionality of the program, then you're probably getting a much cheaper deal out of GeoGen as opposed to professional out of Gaea, but whether you prefer the software is its own thing. So sometimes it may be worth spending that extra 50 USD for Gaea, but at the same time, 150 is a pretty great deal out of GeoGen. The other thing I do want to note about that is there is also the Django Suite, which is 400 USD, quite the step up, but you do gain access to EmberGen and LiquidGen as well as GeoGen, sorry. So that's a much more advanced tool, therefore. So you're paying quite a bit more. This is by far the most expensive out of all these three tools, but you're getting access to volumetrics and flames, smoke, and so forth, clouds even, as well as liquids. And these are both, all three, sorry, are heavily improving tools. So, and they are like pretty, big in the industry as well. Not as big as Houdini, but I would say from what I've seen, they're pretty big, and some pretty major companies are utilizing them. So if you're after more than just terrains, Django Fix Suite is a pretty sweet deal to pick up. $400, quite a bit of money, but you're getting a really great deal, especially in comparison to pricing of Houdini. But if you're just after terrains, you know, this suite's probably not going to be for you. Next and last, I guess, we're going to be going over World Creator, where it's casual, is $150 and USD. So same pricing as GeoGen, but once again, this is its casual version, so albeit it's the same pricing as GeoGen, you don't have full functionality, unlike GeoGen. You do lose a bit of stuff. I believe there is something fairly major. So there is a 50% maintenance renewal cost as well, so that's a pretty good deal for all versions. But you do access, it is non-commercial if you're using that casual version. That's a key thing to note. Non-commercial. If you're using it for anything commercial, you're a bit out of luck. You have to pay for the extra one. There's no legacy downloads, so that can be a fairly major thing as well. If you're trying to access files from an older version of World Creator, you won't be able to. Limited terrain size, and I believe, yes, the maximum precision is 1 meter. I can't remember if that's build or viewing resolution. 1 meter being 1024, that would be resolution. I can't remember if that's build or viewing. All I know is that a lot of people come up with the complaint of, I can't change my precision. That's because you're under the casual thing. So 150, it is a bit limiting. I think if it's your first tool, buying casual is not a bad thing. I mean, I don't know. I look at it two ways. On one side, it's not the worst, but at the same time, it's still quite expensive, especially. I think it's a decent price, but when you're looking at the value and price of Gaea and GeoGen, you sort of start going, I don't know, it sort of needs to be a bit cheaper for it to, I guess, be as valuable. Ultimately, you need to offer quite a lot more if you're going to be that much more expensive. Where the professional version of it does not have, you can have legacy downloads, unlimited terrain size, no limitations, yada yada. That is $289. So comparing to professional Gaea being $200, not too sure what Gaea 2 will be, hopefully the same, and GeoGen being $150 for its full version, you're now having to pay, what, $289? That is $89 more expensive than Gaea Professional, and that is quite a bit more. That's, what, 130 USD more than GeoGen. So, oh no, 140, sorry, if it's 89. So, is it worth spending that extra 140? That's almost double the price of GeoGen. Is it providing you that much more, I guess, tools, or would it be worth spending that extra 150 on, something else? Maybe you could, at that point, you could get, the indie and full version of GeoGen together for the same price of that professional version of World Creator. So I should probably preface, I do own the professional version of World Creator. I do own, albeit my maintenance is up. It went up earlier this year, so I'm missing the latest update, but outside of that, I have been using it for quite a while, and I do have the full version of it, so I do know what I'm... I've been able to explore all that. Same with GeoGen, I own that, of course, and I own professional version of Gaea. So I do own, the full deal for all of these terrain software. I should probably preface. So yeah, when it comes to pricing, I would say if you're trying to pick it up, I would say your best bet is either Community Gaea. I'd probably say Community Gaea is a great pickup, but if you want to try, GeoGen Trial is also an amazing deal. To go and check out what you're working with. If this is your first software in the terrain thing and you're just trying to use it as a bit of a side thing, I'd say get the Gaea Indie for 100 USD. Great deal. Offers you pretty much everything you're going to need. And no complaints there. Next up, I'd say GeoGen is a pretty good deal, 150. Albeit it's still a yearly maintenance, so you could argue, maybe professional Gaea maybe worthwhile more, as you're not really having to pay that maintenance fees. If it, I would assume it will be lasting over a year, so it might be 2 or 3 years until the next version. And if that's the context, then you would argue potentially then professional Gaea would be worthwhile more. But ultimately it depends on what you're after. There are differences between these tools, so I would say professional GeoGen, hit or miss in terms of at least pricing. And then last but not least, well, I guess least in this case, pricing of World Creator. Quite expensive in my opinion against other tools, with terrains. You're looking to spend quite a bit of money, so do note that and take that into quite the consideration. Because even the casual version, there's no trial version of World Creator. I do believe they're planning on bringing back monthly, and if you're someone that only needs it for a little bit of time, then maybe monthly might be worthwhile for you, as the other ones don't offer monthly. But the pricing's quite expensive of World Creator, so it is up to you whether that is what you're after. But it is quite a bit more expensive, especially as a hobbyist. I think that is getting into the realms of maybe a bit much money as a hobbyist, and more definitely as a professional. And that lost functionality that you get with casual World Creator license of, limited terrain size and precisions and stuff. Obviously, no commercial use. Gets a little bit shaky whether that's worth it or not. But yeah, hopefully that was informative. Next thing I'm going to be talking about is the quality of results, really. In my opinion, this is all my opinion, ultimately this whole thing, right? I'm giving you the facts as well as I'm giving you my opinion, so ultimately do take what you want from these, but I do find, in my personal experience, Gaea definitely has the most detailed results, and by far the most customization. Now, take that with a grain of salt. That's not to say you can't... I don't know if I would necessarily say you can't get the same level of results in World Creator and GeoGen. I don't think that's also for me to say either. I don't think I can necessarily say that, but I would say the barrier of, I guess, entry for that level of results, I think Gaea by far is the king. But that's not, I've seen some amazing results out of World Creator. I've seen some amazing results out of GeoGen. So that's not to say that you can't get some great results. But I do think if you just want a really simple but really effective tool that's going to give you a great result super quickly, Gaea is going to be pretty much for you there. Albeit, once again, I did mention it was harder to learn. It's a bit more advanced. So, better result, but also harder to pick up, whereas the other ones may be better if you're just trying to use it for something in the background. Once again, this is for hobbyist things. If it's professional, maybe Gaea might be the way to go, or maybe you go Houdini if you're going for full professional and you want full customization for it, or maybe you might even just sculpt your bloody terrains at that point. But World Creator, in my opinion, is by far the fastest to get a result, really. But in my opinion, its results are, I don't know if I'd necessarily say either the worst or on par the worst with GeoGen. Now, when I say the worst, I don't mean inherently bad, but ultimately I got to draw a line of which I would say has better results, and in my opinion, World Creator and GeoGen are about the same level. With some things, GeoGen may have better results, and then World Creator on its other side has about the same. There's pros and cons. I think GeoGen is great, but some of the noises could definitely do with a lot of improvements. Alpha tool, don't expect amazing results out of an alpha tool, but that is a key thing to note, that some of your results could be improved, and I think hopefully we'll see that within the next year, because ultimately it hasn't even been out for a whole year. So GeoGen, take with a grain of salt, but I think its results, World Creator, GeoGen, there's a bit more that you can do with World Creator in terms of terrains, but I think you can do a lot more outside of GeoGen and terrains, and it's a bit more of a wider tool in its own regard, especially at the point of this video. It may change even more at a later stage. But yeah, World Creator is a faster tool in terms of speed, but also its results are much quicker, especially because, like I said, it's really simple to pick up, and you can see the results as you're doing it fully real time, so it's great. But yeah, GeoGen is, in my opinion, a bit of a mix. I'd say it's definitely faster than Gaea 1. Would I say it's faster than Gaea 2? I think it depends. I mean, ultimately it's a tricky thing to say, because then again, I can run an 8K resolution terrain pretty quickly in GeoGen. So I'd say GeoGen is definitely faster than Gaea 2, but I would say that Gaea 2 is a massive leap closer to where it originally was with Gaea 1. So do note that. But GeoGen's pretty simple. It's really easy to pick up, and yeah. So that's my opinion. Gaea 1 being the best in terms of detailed results, World Creator being tied with GeoGen in its own regard. Some things, depends on what you're going. I would definitely say GeoGen's great for stylized. Going for hyper-realism, I don't know. That's hit or miss. I think you'd need to spend a lot of time making your terrain, and I haven't... I mean, depends. Are you wanting just the terrain, or are you going to overlay things on top of the terrain and have like extra materials onto it? And if you're doing that full process, then GeoGen's plenty great for it all. But if you're just wanting just the result of just the terrain or from just the program, then maybe you'd go for World Creator's results. So workflow-wise, I sort of did mention it a little bit earlier, but World Creator layer-based system, whereas GeoGen and Gaea are both node-based system. So, you know, if you're a node-based person, then I would probably look more into Gaea and GeoGen. If you're more into layers, similar to what you may be using, and I mean, this is not the greatest example, but Substance Painter to Substance Designer. I know there's different, you know, reasons to use both. One's for texturing objects, the other one's for making said textures to use. But that's a really simple way of looking at it, I guess, in my opinion. You know, node-based systems, I think, are a little bit harder to pick up. From my experience anyway, but if you use tools like Houdini, then nodes are going to be the way to go. If you use geometry nodes, I mean, it's in the name, nodes are the way to go. I think for somebody who's maybe first tool they're using, I would say layers may be a little bit easier to pick up, but up to the user, really. So yeah, I don't know. I would probably say World Creator is a bit easier in that regard, but nodes, I think when you're doing a more complex scene, nodes can be a lot easier for, I don't know, it depends on how you set up. You can have a real crazy, like, looking node set up, where there's, you know, as an outsider, you're just like, what is going on? But at the same time, when you're getting, like, 100 layers, you know, you're just scrolling. Which one was it again? It can, I don't know. There's pros and cons. The last thing I really want to mention here would be, I guess, why should you use, you know, the tool over another tool, right? What GeoGen kind of brings to the floor is I guess, a new approach of it. Well, first and foremost, it's part of the Jenga, I guess, software suite per se. So if you are one to use EmberGen and LiquidGen, then, you know, GeoGen is going to be pretty much a definite pickup for you if you're interested in terrains. So, and I'm hoping there's going to be even more, like, I guess, jointness in the future, where it's going to be easy to just, like, send it to other, to each tool in the future. Not a thing at the moment, but that could be something cool that we could see in the future. But GeoGen offers, I guess, a very refreshing look at it, especially as it's a very new tool. I mean, they offer planets. There is not a single, I think, external tool that I've seen that At least there's no tool that I guess specializes in planets that I've seen externally. You can make planets in stuff like Blender. You can make planets in ZBrush via sculpting. You can make planets in Houdini. I would assume never tried, but I don't see why not. And you can probably make planets in a lot of other software, but GeoGen has a full-on planet creation tool. The guy that they got to develop GeoGen, I mean, there's more than one person working on it, but the main guy there worked on his own planet creation tool prior to making GeoGen, hence why we get some pretty awesome planet generation functionality there. So I think for somebody who is interested in more than, like, here's a tool. I like, literally, earlier before recording this, I was scrolling through, I'm in all the Discords for all these tools. I was scrolling through the World Creator. Is there any way to make a spherical terrain, I guess, in the form of a planet? And I'm just like, there's one software out of these that can do that, and that is going to be GeoGen. So there's obviously, I've seen an every single thing, obviously, outside of GeoGen, because GeoGen already offers it, but World Creator, I've seen it in Gaea as well. Everyone's like, hey, you know, how do you turn these into a spherical object in the form of a planet? GeoGen's your king, and it does a pretty good job. It's not the most... there's a lot more functionality I think you can get out of it, and I think they could definitely add a lot more to it, but it is by far better than nothing, and you can already get some pretty crazy stuff. I've made some pretty crazy stuff out of it. I've made some videos on it, as well as I've seen other people create some pretty awesome stuff out of it. So definitely an amazing start, and I'd like to see how they progress through that, and I don't see Gaea or World Creator implementing anything like that anytime soon, if ever. So, you know, if planets are your thing, amazing. Also, I do find GeoGen to be also very, very good at making Substance Designer-like graphs. I made a tutorial making a checkerboard patterned material, as well as making... I don't know what you'd classify it as, but I made there's little yellow bumpy bits that you'd see when going down a curb. I think it's for like people on wheelchairs to help slow them down, or to for blind people probably when they're using their walking stick. You can feel that there's like a little walkway there. I'm not too sure what it's actually what its, I guess, functionality is, but I've made those two videos, tutorials. But yeah, very easy to make, very basic materials. You don't have functionality over roughness, metalness. You do have emission though, and you do have base color. So if you're needing, you know, roughness and metalness, don't have functionality over that just yet. And I have heard that they are looking at making a Substance Designer tool, so I'm not too sure if they're implementing that into GeoGen and having that like just as a subsection, or if that's going to be its own standalone tool. Either way, I think that's going to be amazing if they do that, because adding those more those tools for its own Substance Designer is both going to bolster GeoGen, as well as all the other tools, as well as their own iteration of it, because one, there's no real, like, you have Material Maker and a couple other tools, but no real hard and Instamat competitor. So I think a more in-depth competitor, something like from Django Effects, which I love what they do, I would love to see that. But yeah, I mean, if they start implementing stuff into their own like little Substance Designer alternative, you know, those noise patterns, those nodes, and so on and so forth are going to just further bolster their other tools. So it's kind of like a win-win situation there. But yeah, I've done a bit with it. It's pretty easy to pick up, pretty easy to use. So I would definitely check that out. But yeah, it just means that although GeoGen isn't necessarily the best tool at the moment for terrains, in my opinion, then once again, it's an alpha. The fact of the matter is that it can do a whole lot more than that. So for bang for buck, if they improve the terrains and its functionality there, I can look at it being the best tool on the market. But that will be, I think, better to look at and reevaluate at its 1.0 stage. Until then, I think it's a great tool that you should look into and potentially at least check out the trial. But I do think that it's a key thing that I'm constantly looking into, and I'm making tutorials, and I'm constantly trying to keep my eye on, as I think it's got an amazing amount of potential. And I think there's a lot that they can do with this tool, so I'm really liking it. I would 100% recommend checking it out. World Creator is a more standard terrain tool, where they are, it's pretty standard. They offer some interesting aspects to it. So you've got Gaea and GeoGen have a similar approach to it just being a basic square that you'll work off of, similar to Substance Designer, and all your patterns just happen and apply within that I guess contained square. Whereas World Creator, it sort of works opposite, where if you want to increase the size of the your patterns, you can increase the square itself, and I don't know. I find in my head working that seems to be a bit better, especially because then you got a bit more control over the camera work. But at the same time, I don't know. It kind of depends on the user there. So that's my opinion. I think that's a really cool aspect of it. You've also got Map Tiler, albeit I believe the functionality of Map Tiler is hit or miss. I do think it's pretty great. So that's for taking pictures of the real world map and just taking that and grabbing it. That's not to say that you can't do that already by getting a height map from a real aspect from a map, or like satellite scan of the real world, but the functionality of it being already in the product is great, albeit that's a separate purchase, so do note that. As well as there being some pretty interesting, I believe, materials that you could get for free if you have World Creator. Some Substance Designer materials. I can't remember if they're sub-SARs or not. I don't think so. But that being Substance Archives, if you know what those are. But yeah, I think World Creator offers some interesting tools, but I think, it is definitely a lot less expanded than GeoGen in that regard. Albeit they are, I would say it's one of the better ones for, its own renderer system, albeit you do have path tracing and some crazy rendering tools in GeoGen. It does have a pretty fleshed out rendering system where it's got clouds. It's got, albeit GeoGen has clouds as well, it's got water as the other ones do, and stuff like that. But I feel like there's maybe a bit more functionality with their ones. But from what I can remember, I'm just trying to remember, like there's a lot of like camera stuff that you can do, playing around with exposure, the focal length, and stuff like that. I think GeoGen would be a lot closer in its own regard. Gaea doesn't have as much functionality in in-app rendering. GeoGen has quite a bit. It's pretty fleshed out, but I would almost say World Creator has a bit more going for it in that regard. And it seems like they're doing a full-on overhaul as well with that, as well as being able to import 3D objects, not just... you can do this with both Gaea and GeoGen at the moment, but they are implementing full-on 3D objects. So it's not being applied onto the height map, it's like a full-on three-dimensional object, such as a literal tree or a blade of grass and so forth. You can make fake stuff in GeoGen and Gaea, very simply, but World Creator seems to be taking that one step further. So I don't know if that's necessarily good or bad. I think that's a really awesome addition, but at the same time, that's only really awesome if you're wanting to take renders straight in World Creator. If you're planning on taking it out, I feel like that functionality is not as important. Unless you're able to export with that, then it might be, if they have really, really good tools for adding foliage and so forth, then maybe it would be worth utilizing that. and you can export with the foliage applied in its specified spots. If you can't do that, or it just exports a mask, then in my opinion that's a bit of a mess there. But yeah, that's something you should know, and I think that's pretty cool. It's something that you can get out of World Creator. Last but not least, Gaea. I can't say too much about Gaea in its own regards. It's just got a heap more nodes that you can use. It's got a really, like, the default rendering system, inbuilt renderer for Gaea is pristine. They have it, like, locked and loaded. By far my best looking one. They don't have a bunch of fancy functionality for in-engine renders for Gaea terrains, but it is the most cleanest looking one, and I think definitely by a decent bit the best. But I do believe it's older. I wouldn't say... No, it's not as old as World Creator, I don't believe. But World Creator has been through multiple iterations, and of course GeoGen's very new. So it is that to note, but Gaea is pretty awesome in that regard. So I mean, great renderer. It's got a great node system. It's got adaptive meshes if you pay for the premium edition of it. I don't think the other ones have adaptive meshes. Adaptive meshes just being it applies geometry if you export it as an FBX, or I guess OBJ only for Gaea. It just adds extra geometry and like those little bits where you got more stuff. But if you got like a more flat region, it's gonna reduce the tries in that region, just so you're getting the best what do you call it? I guess the best, the lowest required what do you call it? Like try count, effectively poly count, right? Yeah, it's just as optimized as you're gonna get it. So when you got other stuff like GeoGen and World Creator, you're gonna have to optimize that manually. I don't believe you can do any adaptive stuff in either of those tools at the moment. So Gaea's amazing with that as well. Gaea 2 is introducing a lot of new stuff as well, like God mode, which is gonna be crazy. Where we're gonna have access to it way faster tool compared to Gaea 1. You're also gaining a bunch of bridges straight to Unreal Engine, Houdini, and hopefully some other stuff. World Creator does have a bridge straight to Blender though, so if you're a Blender user, that's great to use. So I don't know. There's not too much that I can say that Gaea does outside the box, but if you're wanting, here's what I'd say. I think if I were to summarize, I'll summarize this all here pretty much. If you're wanting just the terrain, just like a program explicitly solely just for terrains, by far, not by far, you're gonna have, I think, the best results coming out of Gaea, right? I think Gaea is gonna give you just pristine, amazing results, okay? And that's just if you're wanting like bog standard, end of the day, what is the best program for getting a result? I think Gaea is going to give you the best result for terrains. If you want to explore, I guess, more than just terrains, you're looking to expand it. You want a tool that can serve a lot more purposes. A bit of a jack of all trades and master of none. GeoGen is going to be the one for you. It's good value. It can do a lot more than just terrains. It is pretty good at doing terrains, as well as doing amazing planets, as well as doing great material generation, and some interesting rendering tools in its own regards as well. So I think GeoGen is great. If you're here to just look at just terrains, maybe GeoGen isn't the best tool for you at its current point in time with its alpha state, but once 1.0 is introduced, I think it will be a great tool. And I've seen them, what they're implementing for the next version. It's looking sick. Okay, they're introducing a bit of stuff. I don't know how much I can talk about that, so I don't know too much. I don't know really anything insider, but I don't know what is open to the public and what's not. So looking forward to that. And lastly, when it comes to World Creator. What does World Creator offer? I think it is by far, it runs off your GPU, both GeoGen as well does. Gaea 2.0 does sort of introduce GPU related processing, but not by too much. It's more CPU related. So if you're got a real beefy GPU, World Creator is just faster than even GeoGen as well. They got a pretty slick workflow going there. So World Creator is pretty great for that. As well as you're gonna have a really easy time getting a result. Ultimately, it's a very easy tool. So I don't know if I would necessarily recommend World Creator being the best starting point. I think if World Creator was cheaper or offered a form of a trial-free version, World Creator would be the best starting point. But I think due to it not, I don't know if I would necessarily say it would be the best starting point. I'd say functionality-wise, World Creator is the easiest to get into, then going into something like GeoGen and Gaea, but because of the pricing of World Creator, it makes it sort of a hard recommend, I guess. It's a bit hard to recommend. So I think hopefully that was usable and helpful information. Feel free to write in the comments section if you have, I guess, if you've tried any of these, your thoughts on the programs that you've tried, and if you prefer one of these programs for any reason. But ultimately, I think they're all completely viable software. They all do exactly what you're kind of needing. I'm so looking forward to seeing how GeoGen progresses out of its, I guess, infancy into a fully developed 1.0 professional product. I'm really excited to see what they're bringing with the rendering systems of World Creator, and Gaea 2.0 is looking pristine. I've been using it for quite a while now. As I was a pre-purchaser of it, I guess, during a set period of time. So I've been using that for a couple months now, and it's been great to access. I think I've had it since February or March. So loving that. I've made a couple of videos on that. So ultimately, you're not going to get a bad result out of any tool, and if you are getting a bad result, check out some tutorials, go, play around with the program, expand your knowledge and understanding of these tools, and then, apply those, and therefore you can get a really great result. I am liking where they all are. They're all incredibly fun to use. There's a lot that you can do with them. So yeah, hope this video was informative. Hope it helped you, I guess, at least weigh the options. Maybe from this video you don't know which option is the best one to pick up for you. Go check them out. GeoGen and Gaea are straight easy, free to try out. So go check those ones out if you're still unsure. But otherwise, yeah, hopefully this has helped inform you. I haven't seen really that many videos going over these different tools, so hopefully this was informative. But yeah, thank you guys all for watching. Have a good one, and we will catch you guys next time. See yous later. Bye-bye.